Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. The star of the show in 2025 is AJ Dybantsa. We have talked a ton about AJ Dybantsa over the course of the last couple weeks, and it really stemmed from the fact that he did an interview with Kristen Peak from Yahoo Sports, where he basically said, like, I don't really have a list right now. My dad handles all of the recruiting. I don't even really talk to the coaches. If the coaches want to talk to me, they talk to my dad. He kind of screens everything, and then if he feels like this is somebody that I need to talk to, then he'll make sure that they get on the phone with me. And so we talked about that last week. I mentioned a few schools that I expect to be in the mix. I said Arkansas. I said Duke. Maybe UConn, although it feels like UConn's fading. But I bring it up because since I did that segment last week, there has been a very interesting update. A very interesting update in the AJ Dybantsa recruitment involving a school that I don't think I had them in the mix when I mentioned them a week ago. That school, it is the BYU Cougars. Okay, so quick backstory here. AJ Dybantsa, Peach Jam's wrapping up. And on Monday, CBS Sports did their college basketball podcast. Gary Parrish, Matt Norlander, know them both a little bit. I wouldn't say I know them well. I respect what they do, though. And they were talking about AJ Dybantsa. And during the process of the video of the podcast, they asked each other, they said, who do you think is the leader? And so Gary Parrish, this is a direct quote from the podcast. He said, I asked a coach, who is the team to beat? If I were asking you now for AJ Dybantsa, and the coach immediately said, you know what the guy said? Gary Parrish said, you know what the guy said when I asked him that? He said, the school to beat is BYU. And so how about them Cougars? How about Kevin Young? And I do want to talk about this because I think there's a couple interesting angles here. But let me start, and I want to make sure that I make this clear. I heard what Gary Parrish said. I saw this report and went back and listened. I want to be clear here. Gary Parrish is not reporting that BYU is the favorite. All Gary Parrish said was, I talked to a college head coach at Peach Jam, and I asked him, who do you think is the favorite? And that college coach insinuated it's BYU. And so it's not a report. I'm not putting this on GP. He's great at what he does. I'm not saying that Gary Parrish reported. That's not what I'm saying at all. But at the same time, I do think it's interesting. And after I heard this, did a little bit of homework, looked into it a little bit, and I think it's got a little bit of legs. Okay, so let me explain. So first of all, people would sit there and say, Torres, you've talked about BYU a few times. Why would BYU legitimately be in the mix for the #1 high school player in America? And so there's a few reasons why BYU could, in theory, be in the mix. The first one, and this is important. One, he's only taken 3 unofficial visits. He took a visit to USC last fall. That coaching staff has since left for SMU, Andy Enfield, and all them. He took a visit to Auburn, producer Matt's alma mater. And he also took a visit last year, or just months ago, excuse me. He just took a visit to BYU. So he's been to campus. He's been to campus since the coaching staff has been there. He is going to school in Utah his senior year. And also, there's a couple other factors. We've talked about this. Kevin Young is the new head coach at BYU. Kevin Young comes from the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Young is a guy who has been in the NBA, and he is selling BYU as an NBA developmental school. They're calling themselves Provo. In other words, the town that BYU is in is Provo. They call it Pro, capital Provo. So they're selling this NBA stuff. Remember, they've gotten commitments from 2 players in the class of 2024 who are projected one and dones. Yegor Demon, guard out of Arkansas, and then also Cannon Catchings, a wing who was committed to Purdue. Both are projected as top 10 picks. And then the other factor with AJ Dybantsa, let's just be honest. It's about NIL. It's about money, and BYU has plenty of it, okay? BYU is basically, we talk about John Tyson, the chicken man, at Arkansas. Well, Ryan Smith, who's the owner of the Utah Jazz, is basically BYU's chicken man. He basically has told that staff, or, reportedly told that staff, whatever you guys need, I'm happy to help. Let's get this done. Let's build BYU into a basketball power. And so it makes sense. It checks a lot of boxes. Goes to high school in Utah. Has been on campus already. That coaching staff has an NBA mentality, and the NIL is not an issue. Now let's get to the question, and let's get to the report. Is BYU actually the favorite for AJ Dybantsa? I'll be honest. I have talked to several coaching staffs who are recruiting AJ Dybantsa, and I'm just going to be blunt. BYU is not the favorite. And by the way, to be clear, Gary Parrish didn't say they were. Gary Parrish asked a coach, and the coach said they were. But I can confidently say BYU is not the favorite, but that's not a bad thing because there is genuinely no favorite right now. And that sounds like Torres, you're whatever. No. I'm here to tell you. When AJ Dybantsa tells Kristen Peak, I don't really even talk to these coaches. My dad handles everything. And then when my dad, like I focus on basketball. And when it's time to start the recruiting process, I'm going to get to know these guys better. That's 100% the truth. We talked about it last week. AJ Dybantsa's dad is a former cop in Brockton, Massachusetts. No nonsense, no BS. And he's shielding his kid. He's protecting his kid. He's saying, I'm not having a million agents and trainers and high school coaches and AAU coaches coming at him. Everything comes through me. And so to say there's a leader, there's not a leader because AJ Dybantsa basically is just starting the recruiting process going into his senior year. Now, ultimately, you can when you're the best player in America and every single school in America would love to have you. If he's a 3-star kid, you probably should have started a while ago. But there are coaching staffs that he is going to meet with in the coming weeks and months that that AJ personally has not even met with. Maybe his dad has, maybe whatever. But that circle is really tight. I talked to a few people that have been involved with his recruitment. They say it's mom and it's dad, and that's it. They're keeping everybody else out. Do they have advisors? Do they have whatever? Yeah. But it comes down to that family doing what's best for AJ. And so I don't believe that as of right now, there's a leader. What I do believe is a few things. One, it has been reported, I think Joe Tipton was the first one that had it, that AJ is going to cut his list soon. And what I feel confident in saying, when he does, he'll set up 3, 4, 5 official visits. I feel confident saying BYU is going to be one of those visits. I really do think BYU has made that kind of impression early on. The kid is in Utah, all the things that we said. That coaching staff is knocking it out of the park in their early recruitments. And so I do believe they're going to get a visit. And again, this recruitment is just at the beginning. There are some recruitments, even for 5-star kids, that are coming to an end right now. The kid Darius Acuff that we think is going to commit to Arkansas. He's going to announce here in the coming days, okay? But AJ Dybantsa is just at the beginning. And so if you can be one of those schools to make the Final 4, Final 5, Final 6, whatever, and get one of those visits, you're going to have a chance. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating. The one thing that I will say, I think this recruitment could go on a while. Now, this part, nobody knows. Maybe they see something, maybe they like something, whatever, and maybe they commit in October before National Signing Day in November. But the hunch that I've gotten, the people that I've talked to, it really does feel like this might be one that goes into the spring. Because again, the family is very smart and they're very calculated, and they're not going to commit if there's any sort of uncertainty about whatever. If there's uncertainty about who the coach is going to be. Is it a coach that could go to the NBA, that could do this, that could do that could be looking for other jobs? And they're going to kind of want to know what the roster looks like. Who's he going to be playing with? Who's at his position? How does he fit? What's your style of play? And if we learn anything this year in college basketball, it is that as of right now, in the world that we live in college basketball, guess what? Rosters generally don't get put together until April. And again, what we have found out is that basically, if we're being perfectly honest, the coaching carousels are going to stay crazy because in this NIL world, fan bases turn on coaches quick. I mean, think about what the coaching landscape looks like now versus what it did 6 months ago. Kevin Young's at BYU because Mark Pope went to Kentucky. Mark Pope went to Kentucky because, John Calipari went to Arkansas. John Calipari went to Arkansas because Eric Musselman went to USC. Eric Musselman went to USC because Andy Enfield went to SMU. And I guarantee if you asked all of those coaches, except for Kevin Young, who came from the pros, my guess is all those coaches said, look, better opportunity, more money, more NIL, more this, more that. That's the world we live in. So in conclusion, very interesting twist in the AJ Dybantsa recruitment. I do believe that BYU will get a visit. Don't think they're the favorite because, bluntly, I don't think in his recruitment, as of this second, a favorite currently exists.